Everyone, and welcome to today's event, Women in Water Diplomacy in the Nile and Beyond. It is now 4:02, so I think we are ready to start. My name is Oscar Nilsson, and I work as a promotion officer at the Embassy of Sweden in Pretoria. Today's event is jointly hosted by the Embassy of Sweden in Pretoria and the Stockholm International Water Institute. We are very pleased to welcome members of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, development partners, and other guests to today's event. Please feel free to interact and ask questions in the Q&A tab in the Zoom function. I now have the pleasure to hand over the floor to the Swedish Ambassador to Africa, Mr. Håkan Juholt, to deliver a few welcome. Please, Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Oscar, and thanks to you all. Dear friends, our troubled world needs better water decisions. That knowledge had brought us together for this most important webinar. We are facing a growing water crisis, accelerated by population growth, increased demand, and global warming. Especially for emerging countries on the African continent and around the Nile in particular, this leads to increased social, financial, and environmental risks. Women are often in the front line of water crisis, and we can see that daily. However, they are regularly underrepresented in political decision-making at different levels. This is a fact that undermines progress towards cooperative and sustainable management of shared waters. May I also take this opportunity to express that without our long-standing relation and strong cooperation with the Pretoria-based African Regional Center of CIVI, we would not be able to host this event today. Sweden wholeheartedly pursue a feminist foreign policy to contribute to gender equality and full enjoyment of human rights by women and girls all over the world. And that feminist foreign policy is also needed in my own country, Sweden. And we need to improve the ideas behind the feminist foreign policy, not just abroad, but also in our own country. The policy is needed. Women and girls' rights represented and resources are still systematically subordinated. Women's role in decision-making is key importance when it comes to conflict prevention and peace building. More and more research makes it evident that gender-inclusive peace processes are likely to last longer. And I spent 23 years in Swedish Parliament and 23 years in the Defense Committee. And all the male strategies of state building and conflict resolutions have costed so much sufferings all over the world. I have followed that very closely, so I'm totally committed to this policy. By improving water governance, transboundary collaboration, and broader cooperative networks, countries can together reduce poverty and strengthen resilience. I'm proud to say that Sweden is also a leader when it comes to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda, where water is, of course, of crucial concern. Last, but certainly not least, Sweden's leadership in the Women and Peace and Security Agenda is of specific relevance to the topics that we will discuss today. And Sweden is working determinedly to give visibility and strengthen women's influence and participation in peace processes and peace building and state building, if there is anything that could be called state building. But that's another question that will not be discussed today, but at least in peace processes and peace building and strengthening democracy. Move towards conflict prevention by including women and men in combating structural root causes of conflict and violence. Strengthen the protection of women and girls from all types of violence in connection with and after armed conflicts. As part of all this, Sweden is a proud supporter of CIVI and the Shared Waters Program specifically, and the Women in Water Diplomacy Network in the Nile directly since 2017 through our International Development Agency, SIDA. And me as a Swede living in Stockholm, I am proud every single day when I heard stories and also experience of what CIVI is doing all over the world. I'm a proud Swede knowing that CIVI is doing really, really good and well. Supporting women's leadership in dialogue and peace meditation processes in the Nile Basin is crucial to successfully sustainable peace and development in the Nile and beyond. I am truly pleased to have the opportunity to host the new Nile Council members and all the joining members of Women in Water Diplomacy Network and host today's Nile and Beyond Strategy launch event with so many key partners. We know that these processes need strong coordinated partners and committed resources over a sustained period of time. As such, we are asking that partners utilize today's discussion as an opportunity to listen, learn, and consider how we can join forces to enhance coordination around this important issue. I would like to conclude by thanking everyone for joining the webinar, and I wish you a truly insightful discussion. The embassy, and that's my promise to you, remains committed to future collaboration with CIVI and with the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. We look forward, me personally, looking forward seeing you all soon again. And now I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Karin Gardes, who is the COO at CIVI, to deliver a few welcoming remarks. And once again, most welcome to all of you. And I just want you to know that 2 months ago, I became a grandfather for the first time. And I realized that this meeting is all about his generation. We are doing this for the next generations. There is no room for mistakes. We must be successful. We must do better together, because my generation and the generation before us, they was not good enough. They didn't do enough. So now it's up to you, to us together to do this for my grandchild and for the rest of the young children in this world. Thank you so much.
Ambassador Jureholt, dear Håkan, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I think you, in your opening remarks, Ambassador, you were much more than the ambassador of Sweden to South Africa. You truly became the CIVI ambassador, and that means a lot to us. So thank you so very much for not only hosting us, joining us, but also delivering with such commitment and passion your introductory and welcome remarks. Allow me my turn to really thank you very much for hosting this, and thank you for everyone joining today's webinar. The world's water, and Ambassador Juholt said it as well, is under unprecedented pressure from fast rising temperatures, population growth, and our own consumption patterns. And to address this global water crisis and the climate stress, we at SIWI are committed to look at all of these issues from a holistic perspective, from organizing and hosting the World Water Week on an annual basis to also our programmatic work everywhere in the world. The way we value water becomes fundamental. But in order for us to value water in a sustainable way, in an appropriate way, we need to understand it and make the right decisions. Water, you've probably heard it before, not least from SIWI, is, as we see it, a connector. It provides different opportunities as a dialogue entry point for water cooperation. What we see very much in our work at SIWI is how linking the technical, the scientific tracks, and tracks focusing more on building and strengthening relationships between countries and other stakeholders works actually very well together under this water umbrella. And we at SIWI focus, among others, of course, on making technical, scientific knowledge more accessible to decision makers. And this is through very different dialogue platforms that we have on how we can turn shared risks around water into shared opportunities to strengthen the stability and the resilience to climate change. And the power of communication is not to be underestimated here. But when we talk about water, and to go back also to what the ambassador opened up with, we need to put people at the center. Water is essential for what the United Nations have labeled as human security. Every aspect of it has a component of water. And we at SIWI very much welcome opportunities such as today's to share knowledge and exchange ideas and to see how we together with you can elevate voices and knowledge from important stakeholders and sometimes forgotten stakeholders where water and water scarcity or water stress seriously affects human security. Let me also thank you for joining us in today's webinar. And I know many of us, myself included, the ambassador included, are soon heading into a holiday season. So thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. SIWI, just as with Sweden, has a long-standing commitment to advance gender equality, both through mainstreaming it in all of our activities, but also through really having targeted gender equality engagements. And this Women in Water Diplomacy network is a fabulous and specific example of this dual commitment. We're supporting a community of practice of women engaged in water diplomacy processes. This started off as a pilot, and we feel we are very much ready to take it to the next level, expand it, and make it even more applicable, useful, and relevant to all. The Women in Water Diplomacy network in this community of practice that I mentioned brings together this interlinked water, peace, and gender equality. And all three dimensions here are key conditions to create this sustainable and peaceful, balanced future that also Ambassador Juholt was referring to. Because as we see it, and there is plenty of evidence on this, inclusive societies are also peaceful societies. And this intersection of gender equality and water governance has for a long time been recognized and emphasized. But despite high-level commitments to engage women in water governance, unfortunately, this makes us very sad every day, but evidence reveals a consistent, persistent, longing gender gap in the water sector. And this gap is particularly evident when it comes to transboundary water levels, and has actually been really demonstrated and been made very clear in recent years. So working for us towards ensuring an improved gender balance in water diplomacy efforts and where the actual decisions are made does require a change in perception and in action on gender roles, and also most certainly very strong policies to overcome this gender bias and create opportunities for women, many of you are here, to be there at the decision-making table. And we all need to play a role in this essential endeavor. And that is why I'm so happy that through the excellent facilitation by the ambassador and the embassy colleagues, we are able to gather also other interested partners to join us on this journey. But really, from me on behalf of CV, thank you so very much again, Ambassador and you all, for joining us today. We very much look forward to identifying together with you opportunities to combine our efforts, leverage our shared commitments, and find the necessary human and financial resources to take this network and make it possible for all the excellent women and fantastic women that are here to join us today to really take it to the next step. I'll stop there, but without further ado, let me give the floor to my wing woman, as I call her, my dear colleague Elizabeth Yari, who is the operations lead and senior program manager at the Transboundary Water Cooperation Department that I also have the pleasure to be heading since a little over a year. That would certainly not have been feasible without Elizabeth on my side. And with her extensive experience, her strategic mind, and her constant focus on the importance of indeed women in water, we have come some way. We are just embarking on the journey. We need you all to join us on this journey. But really, on behalf of Siwi and on myself, thank you so very much. And thank you again, Ambassador, for hosting this important event this afternoon. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Karin. Thank you, Ambassador, and really our deepest thanks to the Embassy for being a partner in this, I hope, really engaging discussion today. I have to say, many of you know me over the years. We're very excited today, and I guess you're going to see that in me. I can't help it, but we've spent now several days together as a council, and you're going to hear a lot of details. But we've crafted this message for you. And so I really want to thank the network members, our amazing council, all of my colleagues at CIWI for helping this message come to fruition in this very first consultation meeting for the new Nile and Beyond strategy that you're going to be learning a lot about today. So with that, a real invitation to participate and join us. I think some microphone is open. I hope it's not interfering in this. Okay, we'll dive in. So many of you know Siwi already, but we've been changing and growing over the years. We're very proud to have our headquarters in Stockholm, our Africa Regional Center in Pretoria, and this year, our new Latin America and Caribbean office established in Bogota, Colombia. So we're really expanding in exciting new directions. We're about 85 staff members now with specializations in wash and water resources and transboundary waters. Many of you know us from the World Water Week, and I feel like I'm quite happy to share some breaking news that came out today, that the dates and the theme of World Water Week are now released, and there's a lot of information starting to come out on the SIWI website about World Water Week 22, which will be hybrid in its design. So we look forward to welcoming you there. Others know us, SIWI, as awarding the Stockholm Water Prize annually, and we're really excited that we have our 2019 Water Laureate with us here today as well, in addition to the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. So we're going to be digging in a little bit into more of our transboundary work. SIWI Shared Waters Partnership was established 10 years ago in partnership with the US State Department, UNDP, the Netherlands, and Sweden, of course, in a shared effort to improve cooperation over shared waters with specific focus on fragile regions where water may serve as a catalyst for peace building or a source of conflict that can be focused on. SIWI's approach to water diplomacy is very multi-track in its approach. And as Karin mentioned, we have a real overt focus on inclusive processes and inclusive governance with specific focus around gender equality, youth empowerment, and human rights-based approach. Water diplomacy has many definitions. In our vernacular here today, we're really talking about processes as a recognition that there are many different types of actors that play important and strategic value in all of these water diplomacy processes. That could be government officials like those involved in the Women in Water Diplomacy networks, as well as academics and civil society actors and many different others. And that means that multi-track water diplomacy, it looks like different things in different basins, in different contexts where different types of stakeholders are involved. So you often see capacity building, or in our work, experience exchange or peer-to-peer learning. As in the case of the Nile network, we focus on developing communities of practice in order to broaden that identity. Science diplomacy is key, and you're going to hear about research engagements in the network as well, and other types of various engagements. All of these different approaches, contextualized and adapted in the different basins, can contribute to a lot of different water cooperation benefits, cultivating this shared vision, fostering better understanding between technical and political tracks, as Karin mentioned, strengthening these linkages between key actors to develop long-term relationships. After all, we are all neighbors in the basins in which we are sharing. And this can bring new thinking, new perspectives, new ideas, and erode some embedded ideas. And of course, open up new opportunities for communication. But at its heart, people are at the heart of water diplomacy. Because people, of course, it's a very people-centric process. We bring all of our various complementary skills and expertise to these discussions, and the outcome of the discussions reflects that. Over the years, people have asked us at SIWI, why this focus, like laser focus on women in water diplomacy? And here we put our emoji superhero woman together with our women, peace, and development. And we want to unpack some of those linkages for you all today very briefly. So of course, I think as the ambassador highlighted so eloquently in the welcome, that the failure to include women is of course has a direct cost for our political decision-making, including at the transboundary level. This undermines progress towards cooperative and sustainable management. And of course, we see that this impacts the sustainability of agreements. Supporting women as water diplomats is, of course, an opportunity to elevate this distinctive knowledge, experience, and expertise of all of society. and provide us with a more comprehensive understanding of the relevant water challenges and enable us to see equitable solutions that we might not miss when inclusion hasn't been addressed. I heard an amazing webinar myself from the Swedish ambassador to Afghanistan recently, in which he simply said that investing in women is the priority. It's the easiest business case. It's the best thing we can do, the simplest solution. And we want to put that out there too, and have that be part of our conversation today. This slide has a lot of words on it, and all of you will be receiving the PDF of this presentation at the close of today's session. But it was important to us to really state to you clearly our objectives as a network. And actually the council spent some time with these objectives over the last couple of days and really finalizing them together this morning again. And I want to say that these are an evolution, as the network is an evolution. And this reflects our current thinking and understanding. And I want to share with you kind of the headlines and invite you to take a closer look as we go forward. So the first objective of the network is to, of course, improve gender equality in high-level decision-making in transboundary basins. I think this is quite clear from all of our inputs already yet today. Furthermore, we really want to support and focus on technical and regional research cooperation, experience exchange, this peer-to-peer learning, and really enhance this understanding as a way of building trust and enhancing coordination amongst members in the network. We're of course very interested in elevating dialogue, knowledge, and experience around the many intersecting themes of the Women in Water Diplomacy agenda. We specifically want to contribute to empowering young water diplomats in this process. And you'll hear that embedded throughout all of the strategic pillars of our new strategy. And we're interested in really partnering and thinking together as we develop this new strategy and invite new core and thematic partners to join us. Many people on this call, and indeed everyone really, I think, involved in the network to date, has participated in some, but not all of the activities in the network. And so I tried to capture some of the main things, and in the next consultation meeting, we'll also be releasing this in more detail. But since inception discussions in 2016 and the first annual event of the Women in Water Diplomacy, the network's been evolving and coming together in different platforms over the last, well, 5 years almost it's been. And that included the week-long annual forums that were the main activity of the first 3 years of the network, in-person, week-long networking events with capacity building and exchange. The January 2020 was the last in-person event in the network, and that included the release of the joint network statement. And then us, like so many, well, everyone, adapted and pivoted our programming and engagement strategy to focus on online knowledge exchange and capacity building. And in many ways, great things came from that, including many different types of engagement events that spoke to different types of our members and gave them a different opportunity to learn new things in many ways. We also greatly enhanced our communications. Many of you know our early newsletter, the website, and while you may not be aware, one of the most active elements of our network is probably our chat group, in which the network has the opportunity to learn and exchange in an informal manner all the time. So all these efforts have engaged many different actors, from the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Ministries of Water and other related line ministries in the Nile Basin countries. So far, many of those are very recurrent participants. And then this year brought amazing milestone, which is the launch of our new council, who I will introduce to you in a moment, and the launch of this new strategy process with you all here today. So our network members have expressed various reasons why the network is so valuable to them. And I think we'll be hearing from network members going forward. But in these quotes, you see the strength and power of bringing women together and fostering a safe space for mutual learning and growing our expertise in a very supported community of practice. And now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and really start to introduce to you the forward vision of the network. And this is a bit of a first run for us as a network, and sharing this outside, hot off the press, really, from this morning's council meeting. And we're really excited to share it with you. So all this year, the Nile and Beyond strategy has been percolating and developing, really instigated, I would say, from requests from other basin actors outside of the Nile, interested in learning and sharing experience with the Women in Water Diplomacy Network. 2020 also brought the launch of the Central Asia Afghanistan Women in Water Management Network, which is implemented in gracious partnership with OSCE, who have joined us here today, and CARAC as well. And this network really draws upon the experience of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network in many ways, contextualized and adapted to the needs of the stakeholders in Central Asia and Afghanistan. And of course, this is here today, the launch of this strategy and the council. And I want to start with saying that the launch of the council last month in November and today's Pretoria-based strategy consultation meeting are really just the first steps. We're planning another consultation meeting around March 8th, International Women's Day in 22. We're hoping that can be, at least in part, a hybrid in Kenya, but we're looking at options, of course. And then we're going to be working all of this time to be able to have a very strong, clear strategy to share with the broad public at World Water Week in 22. So that's our journey. And you're here, of course, because you've expressed interest in the Women in Water Diplomacy work, or we're looking to spark your interest. We're looking to engage new core partners in the Nile and other basins of focus. We're looking for thematic partners who perhaps will be very interested in one of the themes that we'll be sharing, our council members will be sharing with you in a moment. And we're also very well aware, as you all are really, that this type of process that works to address the enabling environment around water diplomacy processes, it requires sustainable investment. And as the ambassador mentioned in his welcome, we want to join hands in that sustainable journey together as we go forward today. So with that, I'll start a very broad introduction. Over the last few months, we've been developing the outlines of our strategy to embark on the strategy development process. And through that process, we've really honed in on these 8 strategic pillars that will help anchor our strategy and the work of the Nile and the work of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network in the Nile and beyond going forward. And of course, you see that women's empowerment in transboundary water is central and the center focus. And this image is very much under development. And one thing we haven't quite captured yet is the interplay between the pillars themselves. But I think you're going to, you'll see that as we present to you these pillars. So with that, I will be introducing in a moment council members to you all. And it is just, I would love to be in the room with these ladies and you all today, because we're just so honored to have the expert, experienced engagement from all of these women water diplomats from the Nile and beyond. As we sought to develop our council, the network as a whole said, we want, of course, our Nile countries well represented, but we also want to bring in voices from beyond the Nile too. And that's been really amazing. So real warm welcome to all of our council members and members at large who are joining us here today again. As we go forward in the strategy development and then the implementation, our council members have really blessed us with their commitment to support a number of different functions in the strategy development and implementation. Of course, that includes partnership and strategic development and in communications. And in addition, we foresee that each council member will be driving the agenda around one of our strategic pillars. In addition, the CWE process support team, together with partners like Jessica Terrell from ELI, who have joined us from the beginning and seeking to continue that, will be joining this process support team of an array of different experts. And we're really pleased to be able to leverage a diverse complementary expert group from CWE from our side as well. So we will be supporting each of these different pillars. And now, without further ado, Elizabeth gets to be quiet, and it's really my pleasure to introduce your Judith Baja, who will be presenting to you all the first three pillars of the new strategy. And I need, I think, Judith, can I? Judith, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. Let me just spotlight you. There you go.
Okay. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So I'll be presenting strategy pillar 1 and 2. The strategic pillar 1 focuses on gender empowerment in transboundary water decision making. The main objective of this pillar is to spearhead initiatives within the network that elevates women's role in decision making and address underlying drivers of gender inequalities in water governance from local to transboundary levels. Under this pillar, the key activities that will focus on Nile and beyond are identifying and developing national women in water diplomacy expert pool. It will also have a convene national training targeting a broad sector of line ministries related to transboundary water governance as relevant to the national governance structure and develop work plans for addressing priority drivers of gender inequality across sector. It also will develop training materials that can be used by network experts to broaden awareness of drivers of gender inequality in water governance, and facilitate a male champions dialogue group for male decision makers in transboundary waters, working to improve gender equality in their decision making teams and processes. The next strategic pillar is youth empowerment in transboundary water, youth empowerment and intergenerational knowledge exchange. And in this objective, it will focus on contributing to empowering young water professionals and fostering experience exchange between early career and senior women water professionals. In this pillar, the key activities will focus on identifying and developing national young women in water diplomacy pool. This will also align with the strategic pillar 1's key activities. So most of them will also be in collaboration with this. Another activity is actively engaging young water professionals in all network engagement across all strategic pillars. Foster opportunities to peer-to-peer learning between early and senior level network members. And it will also identify and create opportunities for early career women water diplomats or professionals to participate in high-level regional and/or global events to raise their profiles and contribute to their professional learning and experience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And I failed to introduce you properly. So please correct me if Judith is the climate change advisor in the Ethiopian Ministry of Water and Irrigation, and has been involved with the program for many years now, honestly. So we really benefited from that expertise. Zodwa is going to share with us the next slides, I believe, but she is having internet problems, I think. Zodwa, are you with us? Zodwa, I can see
Yes,
that you're trying to connect. Yes, very good. Are you able to, is your sound okay, Zodwa? Would you like to share with us strategic pillar 3, 4, and 5?
Oh, I thought I had 4 and...
I think we had a bit of a miscommunication. I can share this one and then you can do the 4 and 5.
That's okay.
Okay, so I think this one is one of those that is very well known and really aligns well with all shared waters partnership engagements in really every basin. And that is really support for knowledge exchange, peer-to-peer learning, and capacity building in different contexts. So under strategic pillar 3, we will continue this work, supporting needs assessment to identify areas where we can contribute to enhanced capacity building. We'll also, of course, have online activities going forward, and also learning experience exchange opportunities within the Nile and between basins with actors from other basins to enhance horizontal learning. We're really, really keen to, and this is something that our members has been speaking to for some time, to launch accredited courses in partnership with other institutions and organizations in order to facilitate this accredited capacity building for the network members. And that's something we're really excited about. And of course, working with practitioners and experts and mediators. And that's something I think we've done a lot with in the last year through online engagements with the Nordic Women's Mediators Network and the Finnish Women's Mediators Network and other networks supported by the Finnish CPM, Conflict Prevention, and Folke Benedot in Sweden. Zodwa, I'll hand over to you now.
Okay. It's a great honor for me to be presenting this, and you know, this strategic pillar 4, which is about technical cooperation and knowledge and experience exchange. It's very, very important for us, as we say in this, of the objectives, as to assess the technical capacity and cooperation to support the coordination in all the in the Nile Basin as well as beyond. The activities that will be involved in is to establish a resource knowledge library. We feel that once we do have that, it would be easier for our members to be able to get that info, to use that library of knowledge, and also to have an outreach for women in STEM and other related fields such as environment and governance, to consider careers in water management, as well as explore technical research, collaboration across the network partners, because we feel that as partners, you know, sometimes we work in silos and repeating things and repeating research, whereas if we collaborate and we, you know, share information, it becomes easier for all the members to, you know, share that information and use it, you know, but to benefit all of them. But most importantly, to also you know, work collaboratively with other institutions like universities, other organizations like ICWR, you know, so, and also leverage network engagements to communicate knowledge, as well as other, you know, bring together knowledge as well experience, you know, to the to policies. So making policy, you know, more practical, because a lot of times we use jargon without ever bringing those together. So for us, I think that one is very, very important at this point in time. Shall I move on to the strategic pillar 5? Strategic pillar 5 is about research and cooperation. On this one, the objective is to support the multidisciplinary research cooperation among network members and also other institutions in partners and partners in cooperation with SIWI as hosted UNESCO International Center for Water Cooperation. The key objectives here is for Nile, is for the Nile and beyond, but identifying areas of joint research. And we are very big about that, to say, let's piggyback on what is already being done and being mindful of also the resources that are out there. It's always important to use that. The next one is for us to develop knowledge resource library. And you will see that some of these activities continue to repeat themselves because we feel that there is a common thread throughout all these 8 pillars. There will always be that synergy. So it is important for people to be aware that there will be, we will be talking about this one on pillar 7 or pillar 5. So there's that common thread that we do have. And the next one would be also undertake baseline gender equality transboundary matters, so that we know who is who, how many people are there, how many women, in all these institutions that or in the transboundary areas, so that we can give them support. But most importantly, with our gender champions to assist the the establishment of gender equality in various water basins. And then the next one is to engage young water professionals in research and also develop monitoring and evaluation framework for gender equality, because we feel that just to talk about it without ever monitoring the implementation of what we are talking about does not help us. So it is our one of the important things that we are working on. And we are also going to be exploring opportunities for collaboration with family organizations, just as such as UNESCO, IHP, as well as others such as UN Water and UN Water as well, UN Women, all that, bringing Sdg 6 into focus. Thank you very much. I think I've covered it all, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Dr. Zodwa. And now it's my pleasure to hand over the floor to Dr. Tahani Silet. Tahani, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, let me just.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you very much. I'd like first to express my appreciation to the embassy and Your Excellency, the ambassador, and to SIWI for the great work, and specifically to Elizabeth for all her efforts in producing and finalizing our strategies and helping us to go together. Actually, I'll go straight to strategic pillars 6, 7, and 8, which are all about the interlinkages between the network and other processes. The strategic pillar number 6 focuses on the linkage to the Pan-African process. Of course, the Nile being in Africa, and this made it very important to make interlinkages with all the African entities and institutions. So the objective of strategic pillar 6 is to contribute to elevate the dialogue, the knowledge and the experience around the intersecting themes of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network as a part of the Pan-African dialogues. of course, we have many interlinkages. We have the African Ministers' Council on Water. We have the big event, the biannual event, which is the Africa Water Week. In African Union, there is also the ANWIN, which is the African Network for Women in Infrastructure. We have all the RECs, not only the RECs of the Nile. Actually, we can extend also to make interlinkages with all different regional economic commissions in Africa. We also are intending to focus on SWA, which is sanitation and water for all, the African Network for Basin Organizations, the AMBO, and other Pan-African initiative, and of course, as a financing arm, which is very important, the African Development Bank, specifically the Africa Water Facility. This is on the African level. And then we have also under the Pillar 7, the linkages to the global processes, because we need also to increase the visibility of this network and to interlink it with other global processes. So the objective of this pillar is to contribute to elevate dialogue, knowledge, and experience around the intersecting themes of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network as part of the global processes. Specifically, we identified some events and some forums, but this is just a beginning, and we are open to other events and other forums to interlink with. We have, of course, the Dakar World Water Forum in March 2022. Siwi being the main contributor to the World Water Week. So of course, we're focusing on participating and contributing in the activities of the Stockholm Water Week in August 2022. Wishfully, we can meet by then, and we really need to meet face to face. It's really different. The Cairo Water Week in 2022, and as you know, the COP27 will also be hosted in Egypt. So the Cairo Water Week / the COP27, because until now it's not finally determined if they will be just one event or two side-by-side events. So we will be very happy to be there too. And another universal activity is the midterm review of Sdg 6. It's supposed to be in New York in March 2023. So we have to also connect and interlink to outreach to UN women. This is on the global process, and we have also another strategic pillar related to the basin processes, specifically the basin processes, because we need to move regional and to make interlinkages with other basins and basin organizations, to have to learn from successful stories in other basin organizations. Maybe we can have some lessons learned and take away messages that can be benefiting for us in the Nile negotiations and in the Nile water diplomacy. So the objective of the Pillar 8 to contribute to elevate the dialogue, the knowledge, and the experience around the intersecting themes of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network in order to advance an enabling environment around basin processes. And the key activities on which we're going to focus in Strategic Pillar 8, it is to exchange lessons learned from the networks and its members within the basin and with other basins in order to advance the field of water cooperation and water diplomacy, and also to elevate the network and its objectives at key basin engagements, events, and other opportunities as well. By this, I thank you very much, and I'll give you the floor, Elizabeth, to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tahani, Yodit, Dr. Zodwa. It's just been such a pleasure to shape these activities over the last couple of days with all of our council members. I know that there's been a lot of information shared today, but I want to let you know that not to worry. You can learn a lot more about the network and stay up to date with all these developments as this strategic development process continues. The new Nile and Beyond Network newsletter is being launched in the new year. In addition to continuing updates from the Nile network members, we're also creating space for network members from other basins, including our Central Asian Afghanistan Women in Water Management Network, to share information and create a space for our community and the supporters. And we're really excited to share that with you. Over the years, our members have said, they'd really appreciate certificates of participation, certificate of membership. So we're relaunching all those as well with a basin-specific look. And we haven't, in this first consultation meeting, really dug into the wheres and the where might the beyond really be. And we're going to be digging into that in the coming months more and share with you all more details in that regard in the March consultation meeting. But already we can share that broadly, we're looking to respond or consider and develop requests for engagement from basin partners who are already in dialogue with us. We're looking to, of course, prioritize engagements in basins where there is high level of water insecurity, as well as a high level of gender inequality. Those are really the two main intersecting elements here. And we want to think broadly when we work on developing contextualized adaptations, because and keep our mind open to both intra and interstate level engagements. Currently in the Nile Basin, we're primarily an interstate level engagement of official actors, but looking forward, we're also examining other municipal level engagements, which make more sense in particular basins that we're examining. So we're keeping a broad perspective around these future beyond engagements. With that, I just want to thank all of our many partners who have been there with us from the beginning. Of course, all of our Shared Waters Partnership development partners, including Sweden and the United States State Department and UNDP and the government of the Netherlands, as well as our partners in Central Asia and Afghanistan, CARAC and OSCE, of course, who are really partners in the development of many of these principles and values. And of course, we couldn't do it without our implementation partners, Jessica Troel and the Environmental Law Institute, and Jennifer and all of our colleagues at IHE who have contributed at different points in this network's development, really particularly in our second annual event. So really all of these are wonderful partners, and we know we can do more, and we know we can see this strategy come to life with you all. So we really welcome your engagement in today's meeting and in the path forward as we move to develop this strategy together and launch it in the coming months. So with that, I really heartfelt welcome to you all, and I'm looking forward to the discussion now, as I've surely gone past my time. And I hand over the floor to my dear colleague, Anton Earl, the director of the Africa Regional Center, who will be helping us through this next discussion component. So thank you, Anton.
Great, thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thank you for that wonderful overview of what the network is doing. I mean, that's really exciting to hear how an initiative that started in one river basin, the Nile, is starting to have impact in a range of different other basins, including a range of different basins in Africa. So I think that's really living that mantra, the change that you want to see. And it's great to see the network is really expanding on that way. I think by now everybody's really got a good introduction to what the network has been doing and what you are planning on doing. So I'm really going to open up over here now to hearing from some of the participants what their reflections are on this on this initiative. I'm just looking over here. What's the format, Elizabeth? Is there a Q&A or are there questions in the chat? Well, I think I can also just move because I don't see any quite yet. If there aren't any yet, then I'm going to ask on some of our partners that I know have expressed a lot of interest in this initiative. Could I turn to Dr. Anders Jagerskog from the World Bank? Anders, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, Anton, and happy to come in. Thank you really for this excellent overview and presentation. And really thank you, Ambassador Juholt, for really setting the stage so nicely in the beginning, calling upon action in this important part of the world. So I work for the World Bank. I'm the transboundary water focal point for the World Bank, and we take a lot of interest in this, of course. I also have, in full transparency, a bit of a personal involvement in the Shared Waters Partnership setup. I was part of helping that, and it's really great from that perspective to see how this has developed in many ways, but not least in this network that's being established. I think from a World Bank perspective, this is of course very welcome. When we work in transboundary basins, being a development bank, there's certain things that we can do better than perhaps other things, and therefore partnering with a network like this in a particular basin or more broadly to understand what we can do at a sort of a global level in terms of advancing the issues of women and equality in transboundary basin. I think it's excellent, and so I'm really looking forward to further and deepen this dialogue. We are active, and I know some of the members of the network, Dr. Tahani and others. So it's great to see that you're part of this and really helping to shape this agenda going forward. And through the trust fund that we are supporting, for example, the Nile work, but also other basins in Africa, the Cooperation on International Waters in Africa, as the large trust fund that some of the same development partners are contributing to, that are also contributing to your work, are working through. So I think there might be opportunities not only to partner in the Nile context, but also to partner beyond the Nile. And I think what you highlighted here and in your strategic pillars, which I do like, I appreciate the sort of the development of them and the detail by which you address, and it's very comprehensive. I think that opens up a range of opportunities to collaborate further. So I want to just end here by just recognizing the network as such and the development that you've been going through, but also looking for ways in which we as a development bank can further deepen our collaboration with you as partners. Over to you, Anton.
Thank you very much, Anders. That's a real great message of support. And I mean, I think especially from that perspective where the World Bank has really been making such a difference, leading the SIWA Fund now for several years and working across different basins in Africa. I see there's a few people that want to make comments, so I'm going to be coming to you bit by bit. But I see we have on the call with us the Youth Ambassador for Peace through the African Union, Karabo Bokonyana. Could I invite you to share a reflection with us, please?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Sadly, I only have the microphone option, so you guys cannot necessarily see me, but good day to Excellencies, Council members, and everyone present. I'm really grateful to see you and the Swedish Embassy for the opportunity to engage in this, especially as a young woman of color based in Africa. I think it's very key for us to be involved in these sort of conversations. And, you know, I'd like to reflect on what Ambassador Yohal said. We said in saying that we are doing this for the next generation, and I agree. And in the same breath, we need to involve young people and young women. And from the strategy that was presented, I think it was very exciting to see the incorporation of young water diplomats being considered, not only from a decision-making and participation perspective, but also from a research and learning perspective. That is very much key. I think that my reflections heavily have to do with how then we can best involve young water diplomats. And I think going to where they are is best, and how they basically well incorporated. And one of those is really finding and engaging us at learning institutions. Those are the best, you know, the best institutions to partner with from an accreditation learning, but also to engage young people who are involved within the water diplomacy space. Equally, I think that research and, you know, data is such a key thing. I saw that in one of the, I think it was Pillar 5, where it speaks about developing monitoring frameworks. I think, you know, from my experience as a young person, but also as a woman, a lot of the spaces that have to do with women and young people lack a lot of data and research. And I think we need to heavily invest in that so that there's a foundation for greater investment into programs and any sort of work that young people and women are actually engaging in. So there needs to be a high level of investment towards data collection around transboundary water communities and just women being involved in the impact that they actually make. I think furthermore, in terms of supporting you know, women to be within these transboundary water decision-making bodies, the reality is there needs to be a high level of training and preparation, because what we've seen is that whenever young people or women are involved in these spaces, a lot of the time they're not capacitated to effectively contribute to the decision-making. Yes, we want to be at the table. Yes, we want to be involved, but we need to ensure that when we are actually involved, we bring substantive contributions to the table through, you know, technical learning, through preparation. Yeah, I think that would be it. But I'm really excited to see how this unfolds, and more so how, you know, young people and young women are actually involved, because I think that in, you know, in carrying on this journey, the baton needs to be passed, but at the same time, in this process, we need to ensure that different generations are there, and the intergenerational engagements are very key in the continuity of any of the work that is done within the specific space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karabo. I mean, I think you make a really good point over there, that we really need to be looking at all the resources available to us when we are embarking on these very complex types of initiatives around transboundary water management, around water diplomacy. These are difficult and intractable challenges. So why on earth would you not consider all of the resources you can draw on? So making sure that, yes, women are involved, but also that young people are involved. And you make that point so strongly as well, that you need to have access to the research, to the data. And someone, of course, has had a lot of access to the research and data and contributing to generating it is the 2019 Stockholm Water Prize laureate, Dr. Jackie King. Dr. King, I saw you made a request to be able to open your mic. I'm hoping that that's possible now.
Hello, Anton, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear, Jackie. Please go ahead.
Oh, I'm so busy worrying about whether my microphone's working. I'm not keeping up with the discussion. Sorry about that. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and for the people who've spoken before me who are starting to give me an idea of what this whole process is about. I'm very much on the outside at the moment. I don't fully understand what's going on and what's happened before me. So I'm reacting rather than pushing forward with new thinking, unfortunately. Hopefully I might be able to join in more later and become more constructive and helpful. May I just say a couple of things, Anton?
Please, Jackie. And in fact, I always find you to be constructive and helpful. So we'd very much appreciate if you did say a couple of things. Go ahead.
I think the thing that coming in as an outsider and just looking at these documents for the first time, the main impression I had, or the main thoughts that came to me from the strategic pillars that were so well explained today is, first of all, there's one for gender empowerment and one for youth empowerment, but I didn't really catch that there's going to be anything for stakeholder empowerment. And I'm thinking particularly of the hundreds of millions of people around the world who depend on healthy rivers. So I wondered why that didn't come into it, but perhaps it and the second thing I wondered about are implicit in all of these strategic pillars, and I just don't know that yet. So first of all, I did wonder why there was no stakeholder, and specifically riparian stakeholder empowerment. And then the last three pillars, which talk about links to Pan-African processes, global processes, and basin processes, my thought there was, why is there not anyone focusing on links to ecosystem processes? Because the one thing that we can be sure of is if you don't look after the water, the donor ecosystems that provide the water, all of the other talk about sustainability of water supply and sanitation and everything will fall apart. So I wondered why, again, perhaps it's implicit in all of your strategic pillars, but it's something that almost has to stop being implicit and become explicit. Look after these systems so that they can look after us. And just to take that a step further, in Africa, we have amazing women scientists who've stepped ahead of the general trend globally and started to think ahead of the sort of thinking about ecosystem management. And I think it's because in Africa, so many of our people are linked so strongly, both in terms of livelihoods and culture, to the aquatic ecosystems that they live near. And so while the rest of the world was worrying about if game fish had enough water to be able to swim around, African women scientists were worrying about the ecosystems themselves, whole ecosystems, and how we could manage them. And we have brave thought leaders here in the African women scientists, people who have developed methods, software. They're good at what they do. They instinctively nurturing of the natural landscapes in their approach. They believe passionately in the need for sustainability, and they are doing the work to achieve this. So I wonder if we cannot bring the links to the ecosystem in more explicitly. I suppose that's my main thought at the moment, Anton.
Thank you very much for that. And we really appreciate you seeing so clearly areas that maybe need to be made more explicit. So I'm going to, towards the end of this discussion, hand over to Elizabeth and to her team to be able to respond to those points that you raised. So Elizabeth, please keep those on board. But for now, I'm also going to proceed with getting a few more inputs. In fact, someone else who's also been very involved in promoting the academic research agenda around this whole field about water diplomacy is Joanna Fatch, who works for GIZ at the moment. Joanna, I'd be fascinated to hear a bit more about your opinions, your insights on this.
Thank you, Anton, and congratulations on today, Elizabeth, Anton, Siri. I think this is good progress, especially from me. And Anton is right. I've always been excited about this initiative and always wondered, why is it limited to the Nile? So I am very glad that it is open. Well, the strategy opens it up more now. And maybe just to speak to say that this is quite timely. I say timely, especially for this region, for Southern Africa, because There has been a lot of work, especially during the implementation of RSAP 4 and the Regional Strategic Action Plan 4 and 3, and GIZ supported, the Sdg effort in terms of gender mainstreaming. Different efforts were done there, and different river basin organizations were supported to develop strategies to ensure gender mainstreaming. But of course, and I think it's something that we've all witnessed, I think the how has always been a problem. How do we get it done beyond, coming up with the beautiful strategies, beyond getting it, putting it into the IWM plans and everything else? How do we actually get it done? And how do we see some changes on the ground? And I think this initiative very much responds to the how we get it done. And it is very timely in that, as RSAP 5 was endorsed by the ministers earlier this month, this then becomes something that we can also look at as a learning ground in terms of how then the river basin organizations can latch on initiatives like this, and how do we then take this women in water initiative, in water diplomacy initiative, into the river basin organizations to actually get it done. So I'm very excited about this initiative, and I see opportunities for us, especially in terms of how do we, we're going to be supporting the development of IWM plans in the Kunene and the Rovuma, for example, and what opportunities are there for us to learn from this kind of initiatives to already get it right in places where we actually, these are river basins that are just coming up. So I am excited. I hope I'm not speaking too fast, but thank you very much for the initiative, and thank you for the opportunity. I am excited at the prospects of it. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, Joanna, and thank you for those insights. I mean, I'm really getting the sense over here that, as you put it, it's moving away from gender mainstreaming to being the mainstream. And I think that's what it's all about. It's not a cross-cutting issue anymore. This is the real deal. This is really what is happening on the ground over here now. So thanks for pointing that out. I can see a few hands up over there. Thank you so much for being really patient. I'm going to start taking a few of the hands that are up over here for a while. First, could I ask call on Sole Ospanova from OSCE? Thank you. Please go ahead, Sole. I'm not sure if there's a problem with Sole's internet connection. Failing that, could I move on down the list? Jim Neal, I see your hand is also for quite a while. Please go. I'd love to hear what
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
No, we can, Sole. Please go ahead.
Okay, excellent. Yes, excellent. I noticed, I saw suddenly it popped up the mute button. All right. Hello, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank SIWI and Embassy of Sweden, for inviting us to this event. We've been collaborating with SIWI and Central Asian Regional Environmental Center on development of women in water management and conflict prevention for the last year. And there is even a mentorship program and exchange between women on the Nile and the Central Asian budding network of women professionals within the parameters of this mentorship program, which we're very excited about. So I would like to highlight maybe a few points. First of all, to just note the quality of engagement with SIWI, and also, since I see also participants from Finland, and Antti and Anna, and our project on women, water management and conflict prevention is funded by Finland, and also with the significant contribution from Sweden as well. So, but mainly by our primary funders, Finland. So we are very excited actually at this opportunity, and we would like to strengthen not just exchange of the best practices, but even just of the development of such, programs and exchange of experience between such networks. But ideally, what would be really good to see going forward is that we develop specific, frameworks and link up these networks to wider, networks and exchanges across various, regions. Because, for instance, we have work on transboundary water cooperation in Eastern Europe, in Southeastern Europe, and there are lessons to be learned in coordination with Water Convention, for instance, Secretariat. So ideally, of course, women's participation could, sort of get other, let's say, dimensions. And what we are looking forward to, obviously, is also developing an angle on development of women participation as negotiators and mediators. And that's something to aspire to, and to perhaps work further on. And this is the area where we would like, obviously, to see some also advancement. And this, I think I would only add also that perhaps my colleagues who are also present now, Sogol Jafarzadeh, will also maybe add to this, a few lines, but also maybe post in the chat a couple of links where our collaboration with SIWI actually is highlighted and has been very, very productive and fruitful. And I hope it contributes further to your knowledge base as well. And we look forward to further exchanges and in this area, and particularly on women and water management in general, various aspects of it and methodologies that could be perhaps advanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Sala. And I think I like both those points that you actually make there. I mean, you're looking at the mentorship component of this, that is so important, but then also looking at this as a potential pipeline of talent, of people that are really going through and getting experience by doing hands-on experience. And of course, that sort of experience is transferable to other contexts as well. So it's real public good.
May I add a quick note, Anton, just a quick note, because as you mentioned, as a pipeline of professionals, I would be much amiss if I don't mention also engagement with youth networks, right? Because obviously I see that this example in Southern Africa, is where you have also both women and youth groups that could converge on the subject of transboundary water cooperation, which we're trying to also address in our context as well. So I think there is a plethora of various ideas and practices that could be exchanged as we're also trying to engage youth networks in transboundary water cooperation as well. And this is it from my side. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad you made that intervention. I'm sure Karabo would also be really interested to hear more about that. So thank you for raising that as well, Sarah, and coming in with that. With that, I'm going to hand over to Jim Neal. Jim joins us from the US Department of State. Jim, can I hand over to you?
Anton, thank you very much. So I'm fairly new to the water team at the US Department of State, and I'm covering the Middle East and the Africa accounts there. And one of the things that people on the line may be aware of or may not, the U.S. government pulls together a global water strategy, and it's updated every 5 years. It's due to be released in 2022, and we've been going through a process of public consultations to get input into the strategy. And it was very useful for me to listen and to look at the to be walked through the strategic pillars. It was very, very helpful for me. And I know that an improvement in kind of gender representation and roles in the in our strategy that's supposed to be coming out fairly, probably by fall of next year, is something that we've heard a lot about, and I look forward to finding ways that we can engage with these strategic pillars and either amplify this message or hopefully support them. So thank you very much, Anton.
If I could follow up with that, I mean, the new global strategy, is that, are you still having consultations around that? Is there still ways that networks and so forth could actually be giving some input to that strategy? Is there a process there?
Yeah, we earlier in the fall we had a couple of sessions, and we received kind of hundreds of contributions. We also had kind of some like video conferences where people were able to provide information. Right now, it's we're kind of churning through all of that input, and I believe that another round of consultations could open up in the new year. And when that, if it does, I'll make sure to reach out to this group and let you know.
That's great. And we'd always obviously play a role in being able to share any of those sort of invitations that do come through. Then next, I see Anders' colleague from the World Bank, Ellen Hagerman. Your hand has been up for a while as well. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting myself. Thank you. I'm not going to repeat what Anders has already said. I'm the Senior Gender and Social Inclusion expert for the SIWA program, and have already posted that we've just recently developed a gender and social inclusion framework, which focuses on a transformative approach. And I think it speaks nicely to a lot of the things that you're trying to do by having so many pillars. It's an acknowledgement in the same way that we see the transformative approach, that there's a requirement for multiple interventions at multiple levels across multiple sectors for any of this gender change to really happen. And when we're dealing with social and behavioral norms, it's particularly relevant that we need to work together, that we need to move away from the one-off interventions, and also the focus exclusively on women's empowerment. So I didn't hear as much, and I know Elizabeth and I have started to have a discussion about the importance of dealing with men and the male engagement dimension. And in the training that we have just recently launched, we have a whole section on how to deal with men, both as champions, but as those who are the potential resistors, the ones who make it incredibly difficult for women to be in the room, to be heard, so that even if you focus on women as diplomats, if you're not dealing with the men, I think that's a big challenge. And I think the other dimension that I think is important to hear more about is the social inclusion dimension. And so in our framework as well, we've highlighted that women are not homogeneous, and that there are, yes, women who are able to get into the diplomatic areas, but there are many marginalized women, and that it's so important to understand these different vulnerabilities and appreciate that you need targeted interventions depending upon the vulnerabilities. So SIWA works both at the high level through working with organizations like the Nile Basin and other river basin organizations throughout sub-Saharan Africa, but we also work at the local level. So we're actually developing a study right now linked to a project in the Sahel around groundwater management, where the STEM dimension is highly relevant because they recognize that it's very difficult to get international hydrogeologists. They want to build the capacity of local hydrogeologists, but that includes women. So how do we overcome those barriers? So I'm looking forward to finding more opportunities to collaborate with SIWI and at least in the male champions, but certainly I see other opportunities, and so pleased to see so many fabulous women out there who've really blazed the trail in terms of making the space for women in the water diplomacy and the transboundary water context. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen, and thank you for also reminding us that, of course, it's working with men, supporting men that do want to be champions, but maybe don't know how to go about doing it and don't feel supported in their organizational contexts, but also men that probably could become barriers, and there's a awareness raising and change of minds. I see there's a comment over here, it's just been put in the chat, asking for the link to the work that Ellen is talking about. Would that be the gender and social inclusion framework?
Yeah, I posted it. I posted a little bit higher up, and then there's other material that we've developed, and we do have this training that we've recently launched, and open to discussing if there's any interest in collaborating on that as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We'll make sure that that's all available to participants after the call. And it's also nice to hear you touching on the important point that Jackie King made earlier on about social inclusion being a broad category. So having to look at communities, community participation, and especially communities that are directly dependent on the resources of these watercourses, that are living right over there. With that, I'd also like to bring on board a colleague of mine, Jessica Troll. Now, Jessica is a senior legal counsel at the Environmental Law Institute, one of the collaborating partners on this initiative. Jessica, do you have some reflections that you'd like to share with us?
Hi, Anton. Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to SIWI and to the Embassy of Sweden today for hosting this event. This has really been incredible. As Anton said, I'm with the Environmental Law Institute, and my organization and I personally have been privileged to have been engaged in the Women in Water Diplomacy in the Nile Network from its very beginnings in Entebbe, Uganda in 2017, and to be a part of it as it's grown from that first training and relationship building event to the vibrant and really self-sustaining network. And now the council that you see here today. And I have to say, it's been both personally and professionally a truly transformative experience. And I think it's been that not just for me, but for other members of the network as well. As we've learned from each other, I've learned a tremendous amount and feel privileged every event that we hold together to be learning from these women and form strong relationships and supported each other. And I really think this is an incredibly formidable platform for promoting and accelerating that real progress we've been talking about towards more meaningful engagement of women, for real empowerment, true empowerment of women throughout the Nile, and engagement in transboundary decision-making. And I guess just from a partner's perspective, we've provided technical expertise from day one. We've been part of kind of training and capacity building, helping to build the network out, and providing support along the way. And ELI is fully committed to continuing to support the network, and now the council with research support and partnership and plans to continue to hopefully support the research pillar and other pillars, and help to find additional support to sustain this as we move forward with other partnerships, and to leverage our own networks and partners as well. And I would encourage others who are out there to jump on board with this, because it's really an incredible platform. And I really do believe that we can start now to take those next steps to start answering some of the difficult questions in these pillars as we've been working on them over the last couple of days with the council. Just hearing the commitment, the incredible level of commitment of these women who have very demanding jobs and very senior level jobs, but are willing to take their own time to really commit to pushing these forward. It's really inspiring. I just get so excited because I feel like there's so many important issues that are going to be tackled over the coming months. So really that's it. I won't go into the substance again. I think we've heard quite a bit about the substance today, but just really thank you to the network members, and now to the council members, and to SIWI, in particular to Elizabeth and Anton for providing the platform for this and the opportunity to really push this work forward and facilitate new partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And I think, you mentioned quite a few important points, but one thing that strikes me, as you mentioned there, that a lot of the participants in this network, the women that are participating in this in the Nile and other networks, are doing it almost on their spare time, that it's difficult to get that institutional support. And I think that points to something that if we really want to see change happening, it's one thing to have champions working on it individually, but in fact, what we really need is that institutional support, making the space available, making the resources available. And that's why we are, of course, so grateful to ELI doing precisely that. Let's see, there's such an array of different experience and knowledge and so forth just sitting here on this call. I see we are joined by Dr. Lisa Debevec, the Senior Gender and Social Inclusion Specialist with GWP. And I see, Lisa, you are the one asking for the information pertaining to the new JC strategy. Lisa, could I invite you to share a few reflections?
Oh, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting to speak. So Elizabeth, I guess you had that in mind. I didn't realize I was going to be a speaker. But yes, I mean, so I guess I'll improvise. Apologies about that. I don't know if I can have a camera on. I guess not, because I'm only. Is that okay? Yeah. So I'll just talk like that. So yeah, I mean. Great work by Siwi, and I think it links to all the exciting work that's being done right now in the field of gender and water. And yet, while it's all very exciting, what I want to say, I want to sort of address the elephant in the room. That a lot of the times it is those of us who are already convinced about the importance of this that are talking to each other, and the naysayers, they are still sitting on the other side of the fence. And this is my biggest challenge, I think, and the challenge that I see our colleagues in this field facing is that we're very supportive of each other's work. There's been a huge increase in talking about gender issues, about women leadership in the context of water resource management, in WASH, in water diplomacy. There's lots of initiatives going on. At GWP, our colleagues in the Med are also working in partnership with the Geneva Water Hub on women water diplomacy in the MENA region. But how do we make that step towards talking to men? And I heard a colleague speaking about this earlier, talking about, yes, how do we involve the men? And, you know, not to say that all the naysayers are men, there are also sometimes women who are less convinced about the need to talk about this. Although, yes, unfortunately, I think it's mostly divided by gender in this field. So this would be the question that I see as the next big thing that we need to tackle to bring in the naysayers closer, to start having the conversations, to really understand their perspective. I think that's the challenge that we face. I want to mention an initiative that we're involved in also at Global Water Partnership, or two initiatives. One is the Community of Women in Water, where we're supporting a grassroots initiative that was started by Catherine Farr, who's an expert in the water sector and who currently works with WaterAid, a way for women to network and talk to each other in a way that maybe in the past was only available to men working in the water sector. Men would get together, they would network, women would go home and look after their families in the evenings. And Catherine was like, we need to change this. We need to create opportunities for women to network. And this started as a small, after event get together thing. And now it's a membership of 750 women in this network. The membership tripled in this year since GWP also started supporting it. So we see this opportunity to have women-only events, and then these broader events like the event you have today. So I think that this is the important balance, having events in which women experts talk to each other, and then bringing this bigger audience and giving it the platform, so that today we have men and women here, those of us who work in water sector, people in the broader sector, support from important institutions, from governments, from the Swedish government. So I think that's very important. And then having a platform also to bring in men. And we had an event where we collaborated also with the World Bank, where we had a webinar to talk about how men and women can work together. So I think that that's an important thing, that those two types of events. And then the other initiative that I want to mention, and I think my colleague Alex Malawi from our Pretoria office already mentioned it in the chat, is we have this big several-year program, Pan-African program, looking at water security, climate resilience, and women's role in this process, increasing women's leadership and gender transformative approaches in this area. So we see lots of opportunities to collaborate with CIWI in these fields. But I think that really the big challenge for me is how to understand better why those who are not so supportive of these processes, why are they not supportive, how we can bring them on our side, how we can show that when things, projects, programs, workspaces work for women, that they really work for everyone. Because I think that is the message. If it works for women, it will work for everyone. So that's that. I think I'm going to end here, and apologies for my rambling. I really wasn't expecting to be put on the spot. Thank you.
Well, Lisa, thank you very much for being able to make that input on the spot like that. My apologies for placing you on the spot, but really interesting points that you raise over there, and important points. Looking at issues of how do we break beyond this grouping of people that are, obviously we're all of the like-minded, but how do we go beyond that? And that is where the challenge is. And thank you also for raising this important African Union program, the Africa Investment Program, which actually has incorporated gender issues and youth issues explicitly, linking it to the infrastructure development agenda, which I think is a really innovative approach that the AIP is really taking. So thank you for sharing more on that. May I call on Anna Huovila from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland. Anna, you've had your hand up for a while, so sorry for only getting to you now, but please go ahead.
No worries. Thank you so much. And thank you for the invitation. I'm from the Center for Peace Mediation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland. And I actually have two colleagues along, Ambassador Sirpa Mäenpää, my colleague, and Senior Policy Advisor Antti Rautavaara. But first of all, congrats, not only for the establishing the council, but for the great strategy process that you've started and what you presented to us today. Very impressed to see that. And also, as one specific note, I was very happy to see that youth was brought up as one of the key pillars. And also, I have very much enjoyed following this discussion and hearing about other initiatives and hearing about other networks. So the Center for Peace Mediation in the Foreign Ministry of Finland was established roughly a year ago, and water diplomacy was set as one of our priorities. We have a strong background in transboundary water cooperation in Finland, so I feel it's kind of natural that also we found our inspiration to join the water diplomacy and the discussions in it. We have established our own water diplomacy network in Finland with not only participants from ministries, but also from private sector, academia, and the civil society. And here again, the call goes for the Nile Women's Nile Network. We had a really good session earlier this year, and thank you for that, and very much looking forward for future collaboration and cooperation with you. And that basically brings me to the main point that I kind of think that this is the strength that we have, is that sharing experiences, bringing knowledge from different parts of the regions, and also from different generations, from more senior and more junior experts, bringing the expertise together, sharing experiences and learning from each other, and taking this work forward together. And I think this initiative, and also I saw the cooperation part and kind of the boundary part in the strategy, is something that I congratulate, and I'm very much looking forward for possible cooperation, continuing cooperation with CIWI and the network. So thank you very much again, and congratulations. And just a little note that Antti has posted some key documents also to the chat box for those of interest. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, and thank you also for posting those links over there. I realize I'm drawing the session to a close, but I would really like to, just as I'm closing this discussion off, reach out to someone who has really had first-hand experience, a woman who's had first-hand experience working with men in a very strongly male-dominated engineering, water engineering and diplomacy environment. Arguably the biggest international water transfer scheme on the planet, the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. My long-term colleague, Dr. Zodwa Dlamini. Zodwa, could I really just ask you to just briefly reflect on what is it like when you have to try and change people's minds, try and work with people that maybe don't see value in adopting a gendered approach? What are the entry points? How do you go around doing this?
Wow, what a difficult question. Thank you. I think one of the things that has helped me throughout has been, as I learned and as I've always been in those, male-dominated areas, or also in my, in various capacities, but it has always been confidence. But also to say, here we are, the world does not belong to men alone. It belongs to the whole community. And I think as I am here, there's a lot that I can bring. But most importantly, what was, whenever I think about this, I feel so grateful that, the very head, head of our organization in South Africa, Mr. Krookamp, was the one that, said, Zodwa, you are the one who's going to lead the negotiating team, for the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, phase 2 negotiations. And as I led that, I was the only woman, but I had been able to bring other women into the fore, and worked very tirelessly to ensure that, even that agreement is reached. But most importantly, Anton, was to always have a vision to say, this is not about just me, but I'm bringing other young women, to this, so that when I am out of this one, there will be other women who are going to continue this one. And there's no margin for error. And it was very critical for me to ensure that the teams that I worked with, we were very focused, and we knew that we were going to, get that agreement signed by the two countries, and that there were not going to be any repercussions, coming after we had signed that agreement. For me, that, and the people such as yourself, Anton, that you are one of those male brothers of mine that I hold dearly, that you have, even after I had already left the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, you had been, sending my name everywhere, and I've participated. And for that, I'm forever grateful. That is why I am very grateful also that you are one of our champions in the network. And I know that the network is in safe hands. People such as Karabo and many other small Karabos, we are there as your senior sisters and mothers and aunties. We are going to ensure that this space will forever be, safe for you, and to be able to reach, reach greater heights, so that, transboundary water matters are in safe hands. And it's not just about, setting a section of the population, but it's about all the stakeholders. And then, what Dr. Jackie talked about, that social inclusion is going to be there. And let me just say, this is what I have at this point in time, but to assure all of you that as you see those pillars are not cast in stones. They are still, this is the first jab that we have put in. So all of what, the suggestions that you have already made will also make their way into those pillars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zodwa. And it's those real hands-on experiences that you speak of that I think people find so inspirational. Other women, but men as well, just hearing how it can be done, and the youth that you also mentioned over there. So thank you for that. So that is the reason why I might have sent your name around, because you have that experience. I think that's so important. With that, I'm going to draw this interesting discussion to a close, but it's not really a close. I think the conversation is really just only starting. This is the first chapter and we are moving on. But with that, can I hand back over to my colleague, Elizabeth, to guide us through the rest of the program?
Wow. Thank you, Zodwa, for this very moving closing. Now I feel totally unobliged to have some kind of closing brilliance because it's already been put out there. I want to maybe just comment on a few points that you all made during the discussion. First off, thank you for all of your incredible thoughtful insights. And of course, this is, again, just the first consultation meeting along this route. And as Zodwa so eloquently said, these are not cast in stone. And we're looking for your further inputs. And with that, I'll note that we are currently in the chat sharing a link to a survey in which we invite your reflections. And the survey questions are quite broad, so feel free to elaborate. We ask that you actually do it while I'm wrapping up, because we're a little obsessed with monitoring and evaluation at SIWI, and we like to have very high rates of return on our surveys, and we know that it's best to do it in the meeting. So please, while I'm wrapping up, just open the poll and you can start to fill it out as we go. First off, I mean, so many, I won't reflect on every comment, certainly not. We will be taking this forward over the next months. All of you will be invited to the March consultation meeting, and you're welcome to invite key colleagues as well. Before that, we will be sharing more materials for which you are welcome to comment, and inviting consultation meetings with you all bilaterally as we move forward. I really want to just thank Dr. King for this reflection on the not forgetting our natural ecosystems. I'm really taking that to heart as well. I really appreciated all the good energies that Joanna and others really brought to this discussion. I think this is a place of passion for many of us, and we really feel that in the energy and comments that we've had here today. The importance of youth as well. And I think I want to comment maybe a little bit more deeply on the Male Championship initiative that will be elaborated in the strategy under development. I think it's an area that we're keen on. Up until now in the network, I can say even the resource persons that we involved largely, we really wanted to have kind of an all women's space. And that was really important, especially in those first meetings, to create a shared space where we can have these difficult conversations. And the Male Championship Dialogue initiative is very much in that same vein, creating a space facilitated by amazing colleagues of ours at SIWI, Anton and Cassandra, who's also on the line, to create a safe space for also men to discuss some of the challenges around these burdens of our gender and how we can turn those into opportunities and support women's empowerment in a variety of different ways. So we're really keen to continue to elaborate this idea and pilot it already in the coming year, we hope. So really, I love this conversation. I know it's just the beginning. I wish we could turn our cameras on. I apologize for that. I would have loved to have a fabulous group picture with all of your smiling faces, but we'll have to have that the next time. So with that, I thank you all again, and my very, very warm thanks once again to our host at the Swedish Embassy in South Africa, the ambassador and all of the team there. So thank you very much. And of course, to all of the members of the network, the council, and all of you supporters now and in the future. And that is all for me. So thank you very, very much. And we'll see you in the next discussion. And a Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas
Bye-bye.
and Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. Bye.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, colleagues.
With the poll.
Thank you so much.
The poll is working right.
Thank you, Embassy.
Bye.
Bye.
I see people are having problems with the poll. If indeed there's a problem, we'll be circulating it afterwards and suffering the plummeting return rates. So please, when you get it by email afterwards, don't forget us. Share with us your ideas and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Well done to the team. Really, really nice working with you.
Thanks,
Dr.
Anthony.
Tahani, Dr. Musa, great seeing all of you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Anton, for everything. Thank you, Elizabeth. See you all.
See you all tomorrow morning, council members.
Okay.
Thank you, Faith.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Bye.
Faith. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Tahani. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, T.